Alrighty, we're live. Here we are, everybody. Good evening to you all. My name is Keaton Weiss, here with Russell Dobular.
Hello.
This is, of course, the Do Dissidents podcast. We are live streaming this. Of course, this will be up on YouTube to watch in its entirety at the conclusion of this sort of broadcast/podcast, and it'll be up on the audio feed tomorrow for the 4th of July. So one of the reasons why I'm not expecting a very good live audience tonight, I shouldn't say not a good live audience, not a big live audience. The people who show up
They'll
are,
be
of course,
small
very
but
good.
mighty.
Exactly. Is because people are out partying. People are out celebrating this wonderful country we live in called the United States of America. Lot to celebrate nowadays, of course. So, Russell and I, couple of just miserable losers that we are, we're inside podcasting. But any other, unpatriotic curmudgeons who want to join us are welcome. What?
No one will have us.
My neighbors on both sides of my house are all having parties. I'm surprised that my audio is coming through clear without music in the background. There's cars parked all on the street. Everybody's having a great time. And I got to say, anybody who's missing the show tonight because they're having a 4th of July function, kind of a scab.
Yeah.
Kind of disappointed in you, I got to say. I know a lot of women are planning on boycotting the 4th wearing black. That's been like an online thing. People are suggesting that women should boycott the holiday, which I'm all for. Look, I never really understood patriotic holidays.
Have you seen Amazon is selling pussy hat tricorns?
Yeah, pussy hat tricorns are big. You had to have to back order them now. Actually,
it's their big
major demand for them. Yeah, exactly. But look, 4th of July was really busy for me this weekend as a gig worker. I'll tell you a brief story about that before we get to our first segment. But we do have a caller. James, one of our patrons, has called. James, thank you for calling us on this July 4th holiday instead of celebrating. I'm proud of you.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
Absolutely. Did you have anything on your mind? Any questions to get us started, or you're just going to hang out and chime in when you feel like it?
No, I love everything you guys do. I really wish you guys had like this as a 9 to 5, because it'd be great to have 40 hours of this every week.
Well, you're doing your part, my friend. You're a patron. You're supporting us. We need these other fucking deadbeats to follow in your footsteps.
That would be like one of those Navy experiments where they subject you to like isolation to see how long it would take you to crack. Make us do this 40 hours a week, see when we crack.
Exactly, right. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's funny. But anyway, I want to tell you guys a couple stories about America this weekend. This country that we're celebrating this weekend. As people know who follow us, my day job now is I just drive for all the gig apps, the Grubhubs, the DoorDashes, the Uber, and the Instacart, whatever.
Goddamn America!
Yeah,
goddamn America!
We are thinking of getting a soundboard going. That's going to be on our soundboard. That's definitely on the soundboard.
I've had 2 already where I'm like, okay, we should get Sean Penn and Fast Time saying, "Hey, bud, let's party," and we should have Reverend Wright saying that.
It's got to be the full thing. God bless America. No, goddamn America. That's it. It's gonna be the full.
Starting next week, folks, we're gonna have a soundboard. We've been working out the kinks on.
Well, never make a specific promise regarding timing. Never say by next week.
I would say by next week.
All right.
Realistic. Yeah. Well, come on, man.
We'll figure it out. We'll get something like that.
We're not
going.
that R-wordish.
I come out of Walmart, right? I was doing a grocery order. I come out of Walmart. Walmart is hell on earth. It's hell on earth. They're locking up the baby formula. They're locking up the vitamins. They're locking up batteries. AA and AAA batteries are locked up because they're afraid people are going to steal them. That's how expensive things are getting, and that's how desperate people are getting. They're afraid they're going to steal batteries. So I had batteries on my list that I had to get for the customer. They're usually up near the register. I can't find them. I'm walking around forever. I finally grab some, and hey, where are the batteries? They're usually up here. Oh, they're behind the glass. You have to find someone to come get them for you. That's another 10 minutes, right?
Okay,
And then it's
okay,
another 10 minutes for them to walk over as slow as humanly fucking possible with the key to open it. So I get the battery, right? So here's how surreal this is, okay? I walk outside of Walmart, right? After spending way too long on this fucking order, right? I walk outside, and you talk about scenes from the end of the world. There's electric violin music blaring in the Walmart parking lot. I'm like, where is this coming from? Surely they're not playing this music. They don't have speakers out here. There's no concert going on. There's this loud, fairly good electric violin music. One of my favorite songs ever written is Bob Dylan's Desolation Row. So I just want to read the verse of it here. Einstein disguised as Robin Hood with his memories in a trunk. Passed this way an hour ago with his friend, a jealous monk. Now he looked so immaculately frightful as he bummed a cigarette, and he went off sniffing drain pipes and reciting the alphabet. You would not think to look at him, but he was famous long ago for playing the electric violin on Desolation Row. And that song is a sort of series of sort of apocalyptic stories. It's just this very evocative sort of doom and gloom song. This electric violin music is playing. As I'm pulling out of the parking lot, I see this homeless kid playing the electric violin with a speaker set up right next to him and his mother holding a sign, "Hungry, will work for food." He was busking in the Walmart parking lot.
What was he
playing? An electric violin.
No, but
I don't know the song. It was just some
was
it
classical?
Yeah, it was a classical piece. It was very good. The kid was really good. But like, you talk about just like surreal end of the world shit.
Yeah.
Electric violin music from a homeless kid blaring in a Walmart parking lot on 4th of July weekend.
All right, come on, let's do it. You would not know it to look at him, but he was famous long ago for playing electric violin
on Desolation Row.
All right, so I was talking, speaking of the apocalypse, I was talking about how you couldn't get the good ice cream. All right, so
you think this kid had it bad? I can't find my double fudge ice cream.
No, wait, they finally delivered it. Let's see if you can see this because I took a picture. They locked up the fucking ice cream.
Oh, it's locked up
I had to
now.
get somebody to unlock the ice cream.
Wow. They're still trusting us with ice cream nowadays. They haven't locked up the ice cream 60 miles north of the city. I guess in the city it's getting even worse.
No, I said to the guy, because I had to get somebody to come over and unlock the fucking ice cream. I was like, yo, man, sign of the times, huh? You guys are locking up the ice cream. He was like, yeah, that's it's good. The crackheads, man, they'll come in here, they'll grab the ice cream, they'll run out. Sometimes, sometimes they'll start eating it, and then you come over and you say something. They say, you want me to put it back? What are you gonna do then?
Oh my god. Yep. I believe it.
Yeah.
Something else happened to me this weekend, and then we're going to start the segments. But I think this is a good segment. I mean, I think this is. I would like watching this if I were watching. So I'm going to, I'm going to trust my gut on this because I think this is good, real, interesting, real world stuff. So I'm walking out of a supermarket the other day.
It's like you're in the zombie apocalypse. You're like, I saw one eating a deer. I didn't think they ate animals. People would want to hear about that.
Well, look, this is what the end of the world actually looks like. Right. This is what the end actually looks like. This is what collapse actually looks like. It's not all big picture Russia, Ukraine, stock market crash. It's this kind of shit. Just day-to-day life gets harder and harder and weirder and more sort of surreally bizarre until there's nothing left that you knew before. Right. So I'm coming out of the supermarket the other day with an order. Most orders you have to go in and shop off the shelves and then pay with the company debit card. Right. Some orders are pre-packed for you, which is great. You go in, there's a little freezer at the front of the store. You scan the bags to make sure they're the right ones, and then you leave. So I go in, I scan the bag. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I put it in the shopping cart. I go to walk out the door. As soon as I walk through the door, and me, because I'm a maniac, the way you make money doing these apps is you got to hustle. Time is money. Never walk slow. Always walk with purpose, right? Time is money. Get the orders done. Get to the next one. Go, right? So I'm walking pretty fast. I walk through the double doors, and the front wheels of the shopping cart buckle, and I almost capsize the cart, because you know how, like, when you're riding a bike, if you brake with the front wheel but not the back, you can topple, right? So that almost has. So I almost lose all the fucking groceries because the front wheels just lock, and then I almost tip it over. I hear beeping in the background. Store manager comes. What's going on here? I'm like, I'm doing my gig work here. I just picked up the order. Now I'm on my way. What's going on? She's like, well, did you pass through the register with that shopping cart? I said no. She says, okay, well, that's why the wheels lock. So here's, I took a photo. Maybe you could see this here. I didn't realize this at the time, but there's a sign on the shopping carts. Caution, this cart will stop at the exit if not taken through the checkout lane. So that at the front of the cart is a motion sensor that they put, and that can detect whether or not it goes through the checkout lane. If it doesn't go through the checkout lane, there's this little lock on the wheel here, this red lock on the wheel that you can see here in Exhibit B, that activates and locks the wheel in place. Now, this is a huge supermarket. They must own about 1,000 shopping carts. They went through the time and the expense of tagging God knows how many shopping carts with tracking devices and wheel locks. That's how much loss is getting to them. Most of these retail outlets just kind of factor in a certain amount of loss every year.
Breakage.
Every once in a while, somebody steals a fucking, kiwi or two, right? Whatever. Not now. Now things are expensive enough and people are getting poor enough where they're worried about this to the point where it's worth it to them to actually go through the task of equipping, like I said, it's got to be 1,000 carts with this kind of technology.
I'm just going to say they often point out how science fiction writers like H.G. Wells have an uncanny ability to see into the future. But all these post-apocalypse writers that show people walking around with these shopping carts full of stuff after the end, they never anticipated that in the days leading up to the end, they would lock all the shopping carts.
Yeah, right.
They missed that part.
They never took into consideration, hey, ShopRite's not just going to give up these shopping carts without a fight.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, they don't think of the fact that you're probably not going to be able to get any shopping carts where the wheels don't lock in the apocalypse.
Right. Exactly. Fucking wheel locks. Sometimes they have these in inner city stores where people
you're gonna have to get the granny carts.
Right. In urban areas where people walk the carts home, they'll steal them. They'll just walk them home and leave them somewhere. I've heard of motion sensors on carts there. These go off as soon as you walk through the door. Literally, I was less than a foot through the double door, and they locked, and I almost spilled it, and the manager was there in 5 seconds. 5 seconds later. What? And angry, too. Concerned that I was stealing shit. What's going on here?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
What do you think this is? San Francisco?
Right, exactly. This is how it happens. You referenced this article, and I got to find it. It was written, I forget the name of the writer. It was some foreign country where he talks about how collapse happens like this. It doesn't happen all at once.
Right.
It's not like a meteor hits the town.
Right. It's not like no one's working. It's not like there's no employment. There's no commerce.
All of a sudden, day by day, today the batteries are locked up. Tomorrow the ice cream is locked up. The next day you can't take a shopping cart 3 feet past the door without dragging it through the register because it has a tagger on it. Yeah. It's just really bizarre stuff.
It's interesting here in New York City because they spent so many decades building up the police force. So you're seeing these little signs that the city wants to come apart, like shooting galleries in Washington Square Park, where for anyone doesn't know, that's a place where everyone goes to shoot heroin. Things like that, things you haven't seen in 20, 30 years are popping up. But then Adams inherited so many cops that he's been able to kind of play whack-a-mole with these things, like signs of the apocalypse pop up. He sends the cops out to lean on it. But then you read a story that a mother's walking her stroller on the Upper East Side the other night, and a guy walks up and just shoots her in the back of the head for no apparent reason. Things that you haven't seen in New York in a long time. The cops can't be everywhere. So it would be a lot worse if we didn't still have a police force that would, if it were an army, would be the world's 11th largest army. you can see things getting flaky on the edges. But they're deploying that police force to try to keep a lid on it, because the last thing they want is for the tourists to stop coming.
Sure, because then it'll really go to hell.
Right.
Alrighty, so let's get into our first segment. We've talked about a lot of the decline and decay and the dismay that people are feeling at the state of things right now, and people are wondering, what can they do to fight back? What can they do to resist, or, as AOC would say, reclaim themselves in the face of this political, social, and economic collapse? And AOC has some self-care advice for all of you that I think is really important to play. So let's hear what she has to say. Let me just make sure I have the fucking sound working right for a change. Here it is.
Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. And I say happy because joy, too, can be an act of resistance. I want to talk about personal acts of reclamation, because sometimes people will say, there's nothing I can do, I can't do, I feel so powerless. And there is no act too small that you can engage in. And even today, I have a personal errand. I need to redo my nails. And I've decided that I'm going to use my new manicure as almost like a personal act of reclamation for me and my story.
This is Bernie Sanders here. I'm on my way to Katz's Deli for a knish, a corned beef, and a matzo ball soup. This is my act of personal reclamation and resistance. I encourage you all to find your favorite restaurant which serves delicious comfort food and go and indulge as an act of personal reclamation and resistance. Because remember, joy can be an act of resistance. Yeah, join the movement. BernieSanders.com.
Yeah. Don't forget to donate. Try the pickles.
Actually, a corned beef on rye, a matzo ball soup, and a knish at Katz's would be more than $27. So
quite a lot more than $27.
Yeah, so
the sandwich alone is going to cost you $27. No, I'm not kidding. That's about what
last I was at Katz's, it was like 19 or something like that. Yeah.
Nah, now it's
Oh,
it's
I'm sure now.
It's about 27. It's around there, like in the mid-20s. AOC is a great disappointment. I've mentioned before, I was an early volunteer for AOC, and she just gets more intolerable every year. She started out with a lot of promise, and she still does some good things. I liked what she was saying in the wake of the abortion ruling, pointing out to people that voting was not going to be enough, and that you're not going to vote your way out of this. You know, she still has her moments, but she's a product of her generation. She's a product of the time that she went to college. So she gets caught up in these culture war things that are not to our benefit, like insisting that Bernie Sanders not repudiate the Joe Rogan endorsement. She was, by all accounts, the main person leaning on him to do that, insisting that these politicians are somehow racist or insensitive for not using the term Latinx, which the Latin people themselves don't like unless they are college educated, like herself, and exposed to post-colonial theory. And things like this. I'm going to go do manicure. So, that's very intelligible to a certain type of millennial. And she is that type. And it's not to the benefit of our cause when she does things like that she's so strongly associated with the progressive left, because that is everything that people hate about the left and find so easy to dismiss. It's kind of remarkable to me, because she has good political instincts that she didn't occur to her. Maybe that wasn't That wasn't the message to put out there. She's usually pretty savvy in that way.
Well, look, I
I'm
mean,
surprised.
there is a line here that perhaps she didn't really understand which side of it she was falling on, because there's the old saying, a revolution without dancing is not my revolution, right?
Right. Yeah.
Joy is essential to any political movement, but the thing she's missing there is that it has to be collective and communal joy that builds solidarity and love and trust and compassion between people. It's not going to get a manicure. It's, if you want to have a block party and say this is community building, this is part of the spirit of resistance and rebellion,
that would be awesome. That would be amazing.
Going to get your nails done, that's like the Liz Warren version of self-care. Like, after she dropped out of the primary, oh no, I can't endorse anybody now. I have to recover. I need personal time to process what happened to me, which is I'm an untalented liar who lost, deservedly so. I have to process this and take this in. I need me time.
It was the snake emojis.
Right, exactly.
She was a shoe-in without those snake emojis.
Right, exactly. This is more that than the good sort of joy.
Well, at this point, and I'm gonna do a video essay on this, which I'm gradually learning to do. So be excited, dear viewers. Soon you're going to get my video essays. What's going on the left, and somebody needs to name it and declare this war that is actually going on the left, and describe it and explain it. It's really a war between American liberals in the traditional sense of the word liberals and a clique of postmodernists. That's really what's going on between people like Bill Maher, people like us, people like Rogan, and this modern left. AOC is like a daywalker. She's a weird mix of that old FDR, MLK American liberalism with these postmodern movement, critical theory movement influences. And that's where she's somebody who will advocate for all the things we believe in: universal health care and free college and $15 an hour minimum wage. And then she'll go do a really damaging soundbite about how politicians who don't use Latinx are being insensitive. That's it. And she's...
Well, look, I think that's a function of getting famous. Like, all of the sexy sort of, social media follows and likes and loves and shares and stuff come by peddling that kind of stuff, $15 minimum wage, universal health care is not too sexy. That's just not in right now with the social media sort of universe that she has really exploded in. I mean, she's got a huge following on Instagram, Twitter, all these places, and that's what sells on those sorts of platforms. Sorry, I'm getting into the chat.
In the chat, yeah. Manicures for the working class. Mani-pedis for the masses. I like that. For conservatives, yeah.
I'm Anthony Weiner. I'm jerking off to a 15-year-old as part of personal reclamation and resistance. Don't bother me.
I think, and this is going to be the theme of my essay on this, we need to call it for what it is. We're at war with a portion of the left. And this is not new. This happened with the Students for a Democratic Society. The people who were kind of the spiritual ancestors of that postmodern version of the left, they're the ones who wound up being the Weather Underground, who went and started bombing government buildings and seriously helped usher in the conservative backlash.
Sure thing. Absolutely. All right, let's go to segment number 2 of the evening. Unless James, our patron caller, has anything he wants to chime in. James, did you get your resistance mani-pedi this weekend?
I'm resisting by drinking a beer right now.
Ah, my man.
Vigorously.
My kind of revolutionary. A revolution without beer is not my revolution. What kind of beer are you drinking?
This one, it's a dark called Irish Death.
Oh, that's right. You're into the dark stuff. You make your own beer, right? You were making a brown ale last time, right?
Yeah.
Irish Death. That should be Biden's code name. You know how they come
In
up
the
with-
Secret Service.
Yeah, the Secret Service is his Secret Service name. Irish Death has arrived.
It's a good one.
Yeah. That's funny. Oh. Got jokes tonight, gotta say.
Just keep shopping to resist, right? You know, that's
Yeah.
like the George W. Bush after 9/11.
Right, yeah,
we're
yeah.
Right,
supposed
beat
to
the
keep
terrorists, right?
shopping.
Go to the mall.
Um,
Exactly.
You know, whatever you do, don't question power. Don't try to make your union stronger. Don't try to start a union. Don't do anything except an individual act.
Yeah, I mean,
look,
look, I want to be fair to AOC. I don't think she's consciously,
No.
like, spreading any of that around. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think she is. But I think what that reflects, like Russell said, is a certain narcissism that her generation, which is my generation, has a reputation for. I don't think all of that is earned, by the way. I think the boomers who had free college when they were younger, who don't want to pay for free college now, I think that's pretty fucking narcissistic if you ask me,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So I don't want to, I have to vouch for my generation also. But I just think, like, the way it's perceived, yeah, I think she walks into a trap by putting stuff out like that. I don't think she's doing it on purpose. Where, like, some of these libs are, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Sure,
like the
she-
resistance libs who say, yes, love yourself as an act of resistance. I think they're doing that on purpose, particularly to, subvert efforts to do, James, the kind of things that you were just saying.
Right. Yeah, I don't think she's intentionally trying to get people to turn away from actually putting pressure on government. I think she has her moments where she plays into and this is what's really damaging about it. A lot of people who are on the left or liberals, they don't watch right-wing media, and they should. They should, because it's bizarro world where they're covering all the missing puzzle pieces that are not covered in the other media. It's not that they're less biased, but their bias is in a different direction. If you take, it's like 3D glasses. If you take the two and you put them together, you can actually see a whole picture. So you kind of have to tune into what they're talking about here and there. And the way they dealt with AOC from the beginning is to try to denigrate her intelligence, to try to portray her as an airhead. And when she does things like that, she really helps their cause. I haven't seen that particular clip on right-wing media, but I'm not on it all the time. I'd be very surprised if that didn't pop up on Fox News.
No, you really should check out right-wing media. A lot of it's very entertaining. Also,
It's a lot more
things
A
like
trans
entertaining.
with a Schmendrick swinging it in a girl's bathroom.
No, we weren't doing this.
That's our first
tonight.
soundboard drop in Due Dissidence history. I trialed it. Here's Michael Savage.
That's
A
one.
trans with a Schmendrick swinging it in a girl's bathroom.
That moment is gonna one day be as famous as the astronaut on the moon of the MTV logo.
We're gonna keep playing this long past when it is funny. Yeah.
A trans with a Schmendrick swinging it in a girl's bathroom.
Oh, this is gonna be fun. See, when we get our soundboard going, we're gonna have the most diverse, both in terms of racial diversity and ideological diversity. We're gonna have the most racially and ideologically diverse soundboard in podcast history. We're gonna have Reverend Wright, Goddamn America, and Michael Savage, a trans with a Schmendrick swinging it in a girl's bathroom. We're gonna have both. We're gonna have a broad range of voices represented on our soundboard.
We're gonna have Bill and Ted. We're gonna have Homelander.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we'll have movie drops, right-wing drops, left-wing drops, all of them. Anyway, let's do a little bit of foreign policy here. We're going to play a clip of Brian Deese, who is an advisor to Irish Death, Joe Biden's Secret Service name. he went on CNN and was asked by the host, "Hey, what do you say to Americans who are expressing concern that, like, hey, we can't pay $5 gas for months or years indefinitely?" Let's see what Brian Deese has to say about this.
Sustainable. What do you say to those families who say, listen, we can't afford to pay $4.85 a gallon for months, if not years. This is just not sustainable.
Well, what you heard from the president today was a clear articulation of the stakes. This is about the future of the liberal world order, and we have to stand firm.
All right, this is about the future of the liberal world order.
That segment should really be called "Man Who Never Speaks to Anyone Who Makes Less Than $250,000 a year Opines on Gas Prices."
Yeah, right, exactly. Some people...
That's it. You got to be living in such a bubble if you're a political operative who would think you nailed it saying that.
Well, look, this is the breakaway society conspiracy theory. Like, this is the heart of it. The heart of that theory is that elites, rich people, are going to create a society for themselves in which they are insulated from all of the decay and turmoil surrounding them. And, we've heard stories about bunkers in New Zealand, things like this, right? But even setting aside all that, even if this breakaway society is not a physical space, you can see it happening right now where this guy, advisor to the president, is saying, well, we don't know what to tell you. You can't pay $4.85 a gallon for months or years. Look, the future of the liberal world order is at stake. Now, liberal world order, of course, people jump to thinking new world order. What they mean by liberal world order is basically American hegemony, basically, is what they're saying. That's really what they mean.
Keeping things the way they are right now.
Western hegemony.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Western dominance. This is about Western dominance. This is about maintaining a unipolar world.
Right.
And that's at stake. And so we're going to do that no matter the price for the working class people in our countries. Here at home. You're just going to have to suck it up. We're not taking our foot off the gas here, no matter what. Too bad. We don't know what to tell you. Western dominance is at stake. We're not letting it fall.
Carpool.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Where is the Jimmy Carter advice? Wear a sweater.
Right.
That
exactly.
worked out. That worked out well for him. At least that had the charm of having a certain grim, puritanical work ethic, suck it up kind of feel to it. That I kind of have because a certain affection for.
You can actually warm yourself up with a sweater. Right. It's cold in your house. Wear a sweater. I follow that advice to this day. I'd like to wear a sweater rather than crank the heat.
The reasons we were having an oil crisis was completely different.
Well, yeah, sure.
At the time. So I'm kind of sympathetic to that speech helped to end his presidency. But if you look at why, it's because Americans are allergic to hearing hard truths like that. They didn't want to hear that. And Reagan comes along and goes, he was the MAGA candidate of his day. We're going to make America great again.
He said we're going to make America great again.
We're going to make America
used that
great
exact
again.
Phrase.
Exactly. Yeah. So, that versus the guy who tells you to put a fucking sweater on if you're cold. Who people are going to vote for, right?
The thing is, at least putting on a sweater does the job of warming you up in a chilly room. This guy's saying,
nah.
Nothing. No. You don't want to pay $4.85? Too bad. Future of the world order is at stake. We have to do this.
Why?
Sorry, go ahead.
A friend of mine who's a member of the PMC in good standing said in response, when they first did the sanctions, I said, this is going to hurt working people. And they said, poor people have always pulled money for gas. This is how they look at these things. Like, they're not in that position. They don't really know anybody who's in that position. So it's very easy to take that view. But listen, if the gas prices keep going up, you're gonna have fucking riots, man. You're gonna have riots. You got whole parts of this country where you cannot go to work without driving. I would say probably more of the country than not. You can't get anywhere without a car. You know, as a New Yorker, when I was living in LA for a while, it was like on principle, I wasn't going to take my car to go to the 7-Eleven 3 blocks away, and people would look at me out their car like they thought I was a serial killer, like I'm casing the houses to figure out which one I want to break in. Like they just couldn't conceive somebody's walking to the fucking store. But most of the LA is an extreme example, but most of the country is like that.
Oh, absolutely. Look, they're already locking away the ice cream. They're locking away the batteries. What does this tell you? These are indications, right? That people are getting desperate now. This is not a fucking game anymore. And the thing that's so politically stupid about this, I mean, I touched on this a few shows ago. I didn't go into it in that much detail. But, well, actually, we did go into it in a fair amount of detail when we talked about the Crystal Ball Bill Maher segment. There are reasons why gas is going up that are not related to the Russia-Ukraine war. Now, the Russia-Ukraine war is exacerbating that. It's pouring salt in that wound. There's no doubt about that. But there are other causes of this. A lot of this is because when demand for gasoline tanked during the lockdowns, a lot of oil companies cut back on production, refining, exporting. And now that demand is back up, they think, well, rather than go through the trouble of pulling more oil out of the ground and hiring more people and expanding operations again, we can just kind of choke supply and juice the price.
Right.
Like that's what's fueling a lot of the inflation. And you know, some of it is more organic. Some of it, yes, has to do with the Fed, you know, pumping $6 trillion, you know, into the system in the wake of that lockdown. I'm not going to say that has no impact on it. So, point is, there are other causes for inflation that are not necessarily
that has impact on it. That it put a lot of money in the pockets of futures speculators to drive up the futures prices.
Right. But like that stuff is not necessarily at the feet of Joe Biden. That's not really Joe Biden's fault. And so why would you, if you're an advisor to the president, put out there that this is all because of Putin's war in Ukraine? It's so dumb because A, it's not true, and B, what they don't realize, the reason they think this is good politics is because their base is so brainwashed into thinking Putin bad. We just say Putin and that explains everything, right?
Well,
everybody be off our backs.
They're wealthier.
Well, that, but also the fact that their base is so conditioned to just hate Vladimir Putin, they think that blaming something on Putin, okay, makes sense. Everybody will buy that. What they don't realize is that most of the country sees this as Biden's price hike because they hold Biden responsible in large part for this Russia-Ukraine war. Most Americans think that if Trump were still president, this war would not be happening. Just that alone. Whether you think Biden's to blame for it or not, blame is a weird word to use because obviously Putin's the one who pulled the trigger and did it, so he's technically to blame, right? In a technical sense, although we did egg this on for over a decade. But anyway, whether he's to blame or not to blame, people don't think this would be happening if Biden were not the president. And so to blame gas prices on the Russia-Ukraine war is to essentially blame Joe Biden for increased gas prices. And they don't realize that. They don't realize how politically idiotic it is to pin this all on Russia-Ukraine.
Yeah, that never works. In the end, you're the president. Fair, unfair, good, bad, indifferent. You become a symbol of what's going on in the country. People will give you some slack if you look like you're doing something. And that's what he's trying to do by, I don't know, he's cursing out the private gas stations now, blaming them or talking about the oil companies. All right, I'm gonna lay down one of those hard truths that people don't want to hear. I've thought this for a long time. I have always believed that eventually, we had unique circumstances here, that eventually gas prices were going to go off the hook and all of the people who want to go to carbon neutral, who want to go over to alternative energy, are going to get a taste of what that would really mean. And their resolve is not going to be what you think it is, because there are a lot of trade-offs. And this applies to the whole American hegemony that we're talking about. This applies to the whole American world order that we're talking about. The average American, even if you're a flaming lefty, you are greatly benefiting from the system that you decry in ways that you don't even think about, brother. We are no longer the world's reserve currency. We no longer have the kind of control through force of arms that we have over the flow of overseas events and foreign policy. We no longer have the control over energy resources that gives us. And we're going to be in a world of fucked. And people are not going to like it. They're not. All of their principles about how they want to dismantle this system are going to go out the window pretty quickly if they get a taste of what that's really going to mean. That is the side of, the real politic people and their logic that nobody wants to express any sympathy for, because, that logic requires a certain kind of Machiavellian, amoral kind of what we would traditionally call in the Judeo-Christian tradition, evil. But hey, yeah, like, you stop doing those things. This is just a taste of what that's going to mean. You wait until your cash is worthless. Then you're going to have a lot of people saying, yeah, no, those were the good old days when we had the gunboats patrolling the Taiwan Straits and all was right with the world. Right? It's gonna look pretty good once we're actually reduced to the material circumstances that our economy naturally generates, without all of the force projection that we do around the world to maintain a system that primarily benefits ourselves and our allies.
Well, this is why I loved the Planet of the Humans movie so much. And, because its central thesis was that, like, look, at the end of the day, we're going to have to change. We're going to have to fundamentally change as a society. We're not going to trick the planet into putting up with our shit because now we use reusable coffee cups instead of foam coffee cups, or we drive electric cars instead of gas cars, or we use, our reusable bags instead of our plastic bags. Like, we're just going to have to do less because, yes, material circumstances will change and we are going to have to adapt to that. We're going to have to stay home more and just go sit by a fucking stream and meditate a little bit.
Gonna have to put a sweater on.
Right, you're going to have to put a sweater on. You're going to have to put a sweater on. You're going to have to make do with less. And, we think of make do with less, meaning we have to suffer. Well, no, you don't have to suffer. It doesn't have to be suffering. We think of it as suffering because we're hardwired to go, buy, sell, make.
Right.
We have to change the way we live to the point where we're not constantly seeking that kind of gratification.
And that's going to be a very painful transition.
Of course it is. It was for a lot of people. That's why mental health crises shot through the roof during the lockdowns, because people didn't know how to do that.
Right.
I mean, that movie came out like whatever a few weeks into the lockdowns.
The beginning. That's just
right,
the beginning.
Exactly.
When the British Empire collapsed, going to a therapist just wasn't a thing except for the upper classes. So we don't really have good records on the mental health effects of the collapse of an empire, but I'm sure they were pretty severe. The British are arguably the most emotionally repressed people on earth, so it's hard to say, but I would think that fucked them up pretty good.
Yeah, you would think so. Yeah. That's an interesting point. All right, we're going to go into our final segment of the evening. This is a short one. We just do want to follow up since we covered this last week. Green Party Senate candidate Matthew Ho found that the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee was actually texting the 15,000 plus people who signed his petition to be on the ballot in North Carolina, and they were pressuring those people in these text campaigns to demand that their signature be removed so that he fell below the necessary threshold to be on the ballot. So they were basically telling lefties who signed his ballot, hey, you don't want the Republican to win, do you? If a Green Party candidate, Matthew Hoh, is on the ballot, that increases the chances of a left spoiler vote, which increases the chances of the Republican winning the Senate seat. So do you want to take your name off of his petition to ensure that he is taken off the ballot, yes or no? And even when people answered no, they persisted and said, are you sure? This is really important. We really, so they were tampering with his fucking signatures. They were fucking with him. They were trying to get what they were basically trying to do is get his name off the ballot by getting people to withdraw their names from his list. Follow up. The North Carolina State Board of Elections voted 3-2 to decertify Matthew Hoh's petitions and get him kicked off of the ballot in North Carolina. Now, they claim there is some investigation going on in terms of the validity of those signatures. But there are 15,953 signatures that he has. He only needs a little over 13,000 signatures in order to qualify to be on the ballot. So I'll read a brief paragraph from his site here, setting up a video clip that I'll play. During Thursday morning's virtual SBOE meeting, the Green Party's lawyer, Oliver Hall, of the Center for Competitive Democracy, asked if there was any evidence that the 15,953 verified signatures should not be certified. SBOE Chair Damon Circosta, one of 3 Democrats on the 5-member board, refused to answer the question. When Hall repeated that his only question was if there was any reason not to certify the Green Party's petition, given the 15,953 verified signatures well exceeded the requirement, Circosta demanded the Green Party's lawyer be muted. So we're going to hear that right now. The lawyer basically joins the state board meeting and asks the chair of the Board of Elections, in North Carolina, hey, what is the basis for decertifying these signatures? Let's hear what he has to say.
I would like to, and I'm hopeful that we can get to the bottom of this, and it would be my desire, personal desire, to see this new party on the ballot.
Okay, let me just pause it. That's a complete lie. This is the Democrat chair of the SBOE in North Carolina. If it was his desire to have the Green Party on the ballot, then the DSCC would not be harassing people who signed his board there to take their names off of the petition for ballot access. I understand this guy here does not represent the DSCC. He represents the North Carolina State Board of Elections. But still, if Democrats in high places wanted the Green Party on the ballot, then there would be no text campaign by the DSCC to get him off of the ballot.
Obviously. Yeah.
So this is just a complete
lie.
lie.
I mean, he's like Debbie Wasserman Schmuck was a neutral arbiter.
Right, exactly. This is the Debbie Wasserman Schultz of North Carolina. Exactly. It's a good way of putting it.
But given what's in front of us today, I can't in good conscience vote to certify today. So I would like to wait, give our staff enough time to go through this process. If there's a motion to vote on this today, I will be voting no.
Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized?
So here's the Green Party lawyer.
Let's make it brief, though, please.
Make it brief.
Well, thank you.
I don't know if he said, make it brief. Yeah, we just took you guys off the ballot. We took your candidate off the ballot after doing the ball-busting work of getting 16,000 people to sign the petition to be on the ballot.
In North fucking Carolina.
Right, in North Carolina. Exactly. Exactly. It's not like you go to Brooklyn, you can get a few thousand right there, right? In North Carolina, we just took you off, and we understand you have an issue with this, but please make it quick. Make it quick. We don't have time for you here.
Is there any question as to the validity of the 15,953 signatures that have been validated by state county boards of elections?
Mr. Hall, I don't want to get into the details of a criminal investigation, but I have questions sufficient in number to be not willing to vote for certification today.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I asked the question because the board is effectively presuming that there is some question as to the validity of those signatures by delaying the certification and possibly rejecting the certification of the Green Party petitions. And if there is some presumption here that is operative, the presumption ought to be that validated signatures are valid, unless there is some basis for considering them invalid or at least subject to further investigation. So again, the question is there any basis for considering or questioning the validity of any one of those 15,953 validated signatures?
And I will thank you for your comments to the board. I will stand by my earlier assertion, and I will ask any other board members if they have questions.
Mr. Chairman, you have not answered the question. You are now
Mr. Hall, you're out of order, sir. Go ahead and mute Mr. Hall, please.
Wow.
I'll ask
this motherfucker
board members if they have any other questions.
That's it. He mutes him. He mutes him after that. These are the people who are going to save democracy, though. I want everybody to realize that. These people stand between us and the end of democracy.
Yeah, democracy dies in darkness.
Yeah, yeah.
Or in the parlor of a little Democratic Party functionary dweeb in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just disgusting. That's amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing how brazen. Just the brazenness.
The brazenness of yeah, it's a criminal like I'm just going to throw around the words like criminal investigation.
Right.
I'm not going to explain it. I'm not
going to explain what I mean by that. Certainly, the Green Party's lawyer would know of a criminal investigation that was ongoing to the point where if there was a legitimate criminal investigation ongoing, the Green Party lawyer would not even be asking that question because he would know why the signatures were decertified. That's number one. Number two, you would think this criminal investigation of, I guess, fraudulent ballot signatures, right? You would think this criminal investigation would come up in the DSCC's text campaign to get the Green Party off the ballot. Like, if you were texting people who signed, you might want to include, if you're trying to get them to unsign, hey, this is a fraudulent petition. Because it's attached to some criminal behavior. You may want to take your name off this. Certainly, that would be one of the things that the DSCC would have used to persuade people to unsign if there were anything to it, I would think.
Well, they've just decided no one's going to hold them accountable. So, and this definitely has to go on our soundboard. Go get your fucking shine box.
Right, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Sue? We have this locked up. The Republicans aren't going to side with you. This is one thing we both agree on. We're going to maintain the two-party duopoly. And
well, apparently the Republicans voted, for selfish reasons probably, to allow the Green Party ballot access. Because
but why? They're going to support him on a lawsuit coming out of this?
No, probably not. No, they won't support him on a lawsuit. But the Republicans on the
state board
can you even
sue them?
Yes.
They're gonna use the same defense that they used when they rigged the primary against Bernie. They're a private organization that can conduct themselves the way they want. Now, of course, this isn't within their primary system. This is the outside Green Party, but who's really gonna do anything about it?
Well, I don't know if they can. I don't know if the State Board of Elections is that's got to be a public institution, right? But regardless of that, they could just say, I mean, the real go get your fucking shine box line is, hey, we had the votes to kick you off, so fuck you. 3-2.
Well,
we
that's
win,
essentially
you
what
lose,
they're saying.
That's it. Exactly.
Well, that's what they're saying. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a criminal investigation coming. Yeah, that's pretty disgusting.
That's
amazing.
interesting. Bennett, my dad, is watching. I did not know this. This is a good piece of knowledge. In New York and probably elsewhere, boards of elections officials must declare alignment with either Democrats or Republicans. No independents and certainly no Greens need apply. That's interesting.
Yeah, so this is, I mean, naturally, the whole system is flying apart. Like this, the fundamental core belief in the liberal ideal. And, you know, these terms get tricky because there's a way we use the term liberal in our current lefty discourse as a kind of, slur, really. And then there's the classic sense of it, which is something I think we align with. The whole liberal ideal is falling apart. We've gone down a path of the Constitution and traditions like freedom of speech and fair play. These things don't matter because we're fighting fascism. So all bets are off, right? There's no more of that, no more of the liberal ideal. And as history has shown again and again, when you throw out the liberal ideal, you actually open the door to the fascists because you're no longer fighting them with an attractive alternative.
Well, that's the key. We should really do an episode on the Four Freedoms speech because that just lays it all out so well. I was listening to David Sirota's podcast called Lever Time, which is actually quite good. I can recommend that. It's brand new. He just started it. But he played this great clip of FDR talking basically about the same thing, and I'm going to paraphrase it here because I'm going from memory. I didn't know this would come up, but FDR says, the people of Germany, the people of Italy didn't turn against democracy because they didn't like democracy. They didn't really consciously turn against democracy at all. It's just democracy stopped delivering for them, and they thought, well, why should we give a shit whether this system that's not producing for us goes the way of the dodo? Who cares? It's not worth anything to us anymore. And so they stopped supporting it. They didn't consciously say, hey, you know what? I'd like to wake up tomorrow and have all the Jews dragged out of the storefronts and put in... No, that's not what happens. What happens is people say, well, what good is this, as Brian Deese would say, what good is this liberal world order if I got a fucking shopping cart with a motion sensor on it that stops as soon as I walk out the door. The ice cream is locked up. The batteries are locked up. Right, exactly. What good is it? Right, and that's how fascism becomes an alternative. That's how fascism becomes a worthy ideological competitor. Not because people consciously want to live in a totalitarian state. That's not why. That's not how it happens. It happens this way. It happens when the liberal world order just decays to the point where it stops delivering the goods for people. And people stop supporting it with, whatever, donations, activism, and, of course, votes. And then you lose power. And once you lose power, then it's a real steep downward slope.
Right. And we're not offering an alternate vision that... Yes, because the democracy's not delivering. And on the culture war front, we're offering cultural Marxism. And just like economic Marxism was no match for fascism the first time around, cultural Marxism is not going to be a match for it the second time around.
Even less so.
Well, the advantage actually the cultural Marxism has, the reason it's been able to penetrate corporations the way that it has. I mean, you never would have seen Starbucks with a hammer and sickle on the side. They love this shit. They love all of the radical energy directed into figuring out how many genders fit on the head of a pin. They love that. Better that than they're talking about material and economic circumstances. That's scary. At the end of the economic Marxist influence in America, which I would say was the 70s, kind of the end of it. They were seriously talking about putting government representatives on the board of directors of every corporation in America. They were seriously talking about that. You wanna talk about who can use what bathroom? Go for it, guys. Go for it. We're all for yay, rainbow flag. Yeah, they love it. They love it. You never saw Disney flying that red flag. You never saw them doing that. So that is the advantage that cultural Marxism has over economic Marxism. It does.
But ultimately, the reason why I
doesn't
say it's even
power.
less.
It doesn't threaten power, but because of that, the people see it as elitist in a way that at the very least they did not see economic Marxism that way.
Precisely. That's why
they see
I
it
say,
as part of a whole elite that's against them.
Exactly. And that's why I say in the long run, when the final score is tallied, yeah, this is going to be even more toxic.
In the end,
even more harmful.
In the end, because they're going to throw it out with the corporate institutions that they hate. They're gonna see them as one and the same. They do see it as one.
Right. They do see it as one and the same. The only people who don't are the libs.
Right.
The only people who don't are the libs, who have no critique of corporate power whatsoever. None.
No. The only kind of critical theory they don't have is critical class theory. That they don't have.
Right.
They don't have it. It's not a coincidence, because this whole movement evolved out of a decision that economic Marxism was not tenable in the face of the USSR, that they had to move into other areas of activism, and they adopted basic Marxism philosophy to matters of identity.
Right. All right, we are going to wrap in a few minutes. This was a great show. I'm going to toss to our patron caller, though, so he can get his 2 cents in just a second. Before I do that, James is a subscriber at patreon.com/do-dissidents, and we thank you for that, James. One of the perks you get for being a patron is call-in access to this show, so you can see your face right where James's face is now.
And don't worry if you have very extremist views. We're completely irresponsible. If you pay us, we'll give you a platform. We don't care.
Yeah, right. You come on and say what you want.
Promote
$5
anything. We don't care. For $5, we'll meet you in the back of the bus station.
It buys half a pint of Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah.
Get our ice cream. That's all we really want is our fucking ice cream.
Not even. That shit's $7 now.
Well, that's why I said half a pint.
Oh, half a pint, yeah.
Right. No, wouldn't buy it a full pint. No.
No.
It'll buy a full pint of that like Turkey Hill shit that our friend Alan is schlepping around the country now.
If you can
Alan Howell, who used to host the Howell Underground, he has a good YouTube show on now called Non-Toxic Masculinity. It's not quite a political show, but I'll plug it anyway. I've invited him on to plug it. And he's a little bit nervous about coming on and talking about it, because he talks about just more personal spiritual stuff. But it's quite good. I recommend you check it out. But yeah, he does that podcast from his truck. He puts a little cam in his ice cream truck. Ice cream, like he's driving around selling kids ice cream. No, he drives an 18-wheeler for Turkey Hill.
Yeah.
Sold out to Big Ice Cream.
Yeah.
But you can get that for under $5 a pint probably still. But anyway. If you sign up, patreon.com/do-dissidents or do-dissidents.substack.com, you can sign up for as little as $5 a month, help support our show, help us pay for our soundboard. We're going to get our soundboard going. Like I said, none of this is free, so if you can help us out, we would love you for it. And so the links are right in the chat here, Patreon and Substack. I post them up there. Just a few comments from the bottom of the list.
The more you donate, the closer we are to that dream of us broadcasting 40 hours a week.
You're right. James said he wanted us to do this 40 hours a week. I would love to do this full time.
If you need, if you need to get a second mortgage, that's okay. We won't stop you.
Maybe a more reasonable work week, but being able to actually, do what you love doing as a way to make income versus the other things.
Versus dragging a shopping cart out of a store and almost almost getting shot by the assistant manager.
But the fact that we're working guys, that's what gives us street cred. That's our credibility.
I mean, that gives the show a certain perspective. Yeah, honestly. that a lot of these other shows don't have.
The fact that I'm working so hard that like when I get up in the middle of the night to pee, I'm hobbling to the bathroom like a 72-year-old man. So,
Exactly.
I'm a working guy. That's the real deal. That's the real deal. Doesn't get more real than that. I'm working so much I can hardly walk when I get out of bed at night.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's the shit.
That's the shit. James, any questions, comments, final thoughts?
No, just everybody sign up so there's more folks on the Zoom call, and we can get.
And so I can pay for the good hip replacement, not the one that
Yeah.
gives you Alzheimer's symptoms. the cobalt stuff.
One thing we're thinking about starting.
Bloodstream. People get misdiagnosed with Alzheimer's and senility. It's actually the hip replacement.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah, there's Bleeding Edge, I think the documentary on Netflix is called. I was talking about, I wanted to do an article about that, and because they dropped another one about Boeing, and I felt like they worked really well as companion pieces showing regulatory capture and how downright dangerous corporate America has become to the public. They're dangerous to our safety. Like these medical manufacturers, they don't give a shit. They'll just throw that device on the market. And because of the control they have over the appointees at the FDA, they're able to get away with murder. Like you think that devices are safe by the time they get put on the market. No. A lot of this stuff, people's lives are destroyed by some of these medical devices. Now they have hip replacement that's they changed the design. It used to be ceramic and they changed it to like cobalt, and some of these start melting in people's hip sockets and they start acting crazy. So they would get misdiagnosed as having Alzheimer's, and it was really this
metal poisoning.
It was metal poisoning. Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Holy shit, that's crazy.
Yeah, Matt Stoller did a thing a couple months ago that was about basically the capture with hearing aids.
Oh, interesting.
How we're basically screwed. He did a whole video on. There's like a Breaking Points had a video on it, but then he also had his own Substack article. So
interesting.
There's always a grift.
Yeah,
that's it.
Absolutely,
that's it. That's part of the whole breakdown in our institutions.
Well, sure thing. One of the things we're thinking of doing, by the way, for our patrons, and James is here. You can tell me what you think of this. We got Let's Go Brandon on the chat here. I don't know if you're still watching, but Brandon's a patron. We got some people watching who are patrons and paid Substackers. We were thinking about, so part of what you get as a patron is you get call-in access to these shows, but you also get 4 bonus videos per month. And so what we were thinking of doing that could be fun is doing a bonus live stream after the regular show on Sunday nights. So we'll schedule it for like 8:15, 8:30 or so. That is just only available for patrons. So we'll do like a bonus segment.
Yeah, do Dissidents After Hours.
Every week, yeah. Dissidents After Dark, we'll call it.
Oh, yeah, it's not bad, actually.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
So basically what will happen is we'll sign off here, and then we'll go right to the second stream. We'll give everybody about 5 minutes to transfer over, and then we'll do the live stream there, and that video will just be up as an unlisted YouTube link for the patron-only video that week. So you get 1 a week. That's 4 a month. That works out. Boom. What do you think, James? Do you like that idea?
That sounds pretty good. I think the Vanguard does something similar on their show.
Oh, well, fuck it. We're not doing
Posers.
Those guys are cool. Like they're so young though. So you guys might like be like the before and after or something. Because they're all like, young. Back when I was in high school, and I'm just like, oh man, I was an adult then, and it was, Bush was a bad guy then, and now he's a good guy, and it's hard to keep track, I guess.
Those Vanguard guys are bloody wankers.
Oh, Frank has a good idea. Frank is a patron. He's watching. He just put an interesting chat. He says patrons should be able to choose their own DJ style soundbite. Give each patron their own soundboard.
Their own soundboard sample.
That's an idea too.
Yeah. Well, once we figure out how me and you can do it in tandem,
yeah, right.
We can think
then
about
we'll open it up to everybody else.
That's a big part of why we didn't start doing it tonight. We don't know how to on Zoom have each of us have control of our own soundboard.
Right, because only one of us can share our sound at a time. So I was able to play my soundboard clip, but really the way to make it work is the way it's going to be spontaneous and fun is if both of us can do it any time. And so we have to figure that out.
Exactly.
But we should be able
We're
to
working
nail
on
that. We're working on it. Exactly. All right, everybody. Well, I think that's our show. This was a really fun one. I hope you have a great 4th of July. I hope you celebrate this wonderful country of ours as it deserves to be celebrated tomorrow. And so I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you to James, our patron, for calling. And thank you guys for a great chat. We ended up having a pretty big crowd in here tonight after all. I didn't think so.
I told you our audience doesn't celebrate the 4th of July.
Yeah, I was nervous, but I was thinking before we came on, I'm like, nobody's going to be watching tonight. They're all barbecuing and partying. And Russell's like, no, they're not. They'll be here. He was right. He was right. So thank you guys very much. This was a really
our
fun
audience is more likely to bomb a post office tomorrow.
All right. Well, we're gonna have to. We almost made it.
I should have to parody that.
We should have signed off 10 seconds ago.
And that's the end of the show.
Yeah, right, exactly.
There was that guy making spaghetti like a couple weeks ago. Maybe we should have done that for the 4th of July. Have the lefties, show everyone how to make a burger.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I actually made spaghetti tonight because my wife doesn't want to celebrate 4th of July this year because of the Roe thing, and I think that's a smart idea. I never understood patriotic holidays. I never understood being proud of the country that you live in. That's just me, though. I mean, that's a function of being half Maltese and then half German, Russian, Jew. Like my parents are from such different cultural backgrounds. My mother is full Maltese, which is heart of the Mediterranean Sea, extremely Catholic culture, and then my father's a German, Russian, Bronx Jew. If either of them were like strongly committed to like their cultural heritage, they never would have married each other because right. And so none of them really care much about that, and that's probably why I don't care much about that. That's probably why I never understood patriotism or anything like that, or cultural pride or anything. And so these holidays never made sense to me, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a very good year to just outwardly boycott it for a whole number of reasons, not the least of which being the Roe thing, obviously. So yeah, if people are wearing black tomorrow and eating spaghetti and meatballs instead of hot dogs and hamburgers, good on you.
Falafel. And I want to go Middle Eastern with it. Falafel and halva.
Right. Exactly. Yeah,
halva. Just to honor the people under our military wrath.
That's true.
The only holidays I care about are Halloween, because I'm a lifelong horror person. Thanksgiving, because man, that's a depressing day not to be with people, man. Like you do not want to be alone on Thanksgiving. I like Thanksgiving. That's rough. That's rough.
I like a holiday that the thing I like about Thanksgiving is it's about the food. I like food.
Sure.
Celebrating food is fine with me. That I get that.
Food,
we're all going to get together.
Friendship.
We're going to get together and talk and eat. That makes sense. Okay, that's a holiday I can understand.
Yes.
This other shit is like...
And this is where Matt Taibbi wrote an article repudiating this. Yeah, I mean, this is where like the joyless portions of the left like lose people. Like, yes, we know. Yes, Indian slaughter. Yes, you're right. But that's really not what the holiday means to people today. Like, that's not what they're celebrating. Things evolve, things change, their meaning changes. I think, if anything, you could take Thanksgiving as an opportunity to acknowledge and honor those people and still celebrate Thanksgiving. Rather, you can reject that, friendly Indians and the Pilgrims. You can reject all that and still celebrate Thanksgiving. It's become something else. I mean, I think more Americans think of football than they are thinking about the Pilgrims. You had that's where it does not benefit us to be absolute and to just constantly be scolding people. It's just not the way to win a political fight, against the fascists who are gonna be like, oh yeah, no, have more turkey, right? Like, who do you want to hang out with? Who do you want to hang out with? The one who's going to make you feel guilty about Thanksgiving, or the one who's going to tell you, no, of course, celebrate Thanksgiving? Like, in other words, pick your battles. Pick your battles. Like, I don't know a lot of people who don't want to celebrate Thanksgiving. Like, funny enough, even the ones who will say things like that will get together with friends on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, of course. Right.
Like, who the hell really wants to, you know? So I care about those two. Halloween for the aesthetics and Thanksgiving for the, I mean, to me, it's a holiday about friendship, you know, about family, about
friendship, family, food, beer,
food,
football. It's fun. It's good.
Food coma.
Exactly.
It's a good time. And New Year's Eve, like, I can take it or leave it.
No, I was never. I have a streak of getting sick on New Year's Eve. I would always be sick on New Year's Eve. It was a weird thing.
Oh, yeah?
Weird thing. I had a string for like 7 years in a row. I would get sick on New Year's Eve and not be able to do anything.
When I used to do a holiday show every December, I never wanted to be with people on New Year's Eve because it was like my first opportunity to be alone.
It's interesting. My cousin met the woman he ended up marrying, and then he subsequently divorced her. So the story is kind of a downer in that sense. But I would always tell him because it was New Year's Eve in New York, and my cousin and my other cousin, this guy, they were going out. Hey, we're gonna go bar hopping in, like 125th Street area New Year's Eve. You want to come? My wife and I are like, no. We would go with you if you were going downtown. I don't want to go uptown on New Year's Eve because I don't want to cross through the Times Square thing. So no, we stayed home. And turns out he met the girl who he married that night. And I would always tell him, I said, listen, if I were with you that night, you and I would have been bullshitting about some stupid, nonsense. And she would have walked right past you. You'd have never seen her. Yeah. And so look at how your whole life changed because I decided, no, I'm not coming.
And he wouldn't have had all that alimony now.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that really makes the story not as good. The fact that they didn't
exactly. It's not the little when Harry met Sally interlude.
Right.
Kind of
While they were together, that was a great story. Now it's kind of like there's that epilogue there that kind of ruins it.
He and look, he'll never say this to you, but in the back of his mind, he blames you.
Right. Well, now he blames me. Right. Exactly. Yeah. It was always a situation where I was like, aren't you glad I was such a curmudgeon to be like, no, I'm not going uptown New Year's Eve.
In places he doesn't want to admit, in places he's not proud of, he hates you.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I remember reading an article in college about how you could move memories around, like from different physical parts of your brain, and that's often what we do when we've exited a relationship, and you run it through the new frame of whatever the bad thing was, and so the things that were good become bad. But then it was like, this was just more of a like, can you take this memory, turn it into a picture and make it black and white, and you've moved it, was enough because now you've associated the new memory with the old memory. And
interesting.
Yeah.
So,
all right. So I guess we're really going to wrap
send
this
that
time,
to your friend.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap this time for real. Thank you, guys. This was a really fun show. Appreciate you all watching. Patreon.com/DoDissidents, DoDissidents.substack.com. You can hit us up on both those platforms. Even, I say this every time, but in all seriousness, even if you can't spring for the $5 a month to be a paid Substack subscriber, sign up for free. It's just an email list. You could sign up for free. This way you can get all of our stuff emailed to you, including the audio podcast feed. Thank you guys very much for watching. Thanks to our podcast listeners for listening. This will be up tomorrow, 4th of July. Thank you guys. Have a great evening. Be safe. Be well. See you next time.